Hi, everyone. It is Tuesday, the 28th of April. I'm Ana Maria Montero, and you are watching CNN Money Switzerland. These are your headlines tonight. Starting in Switzerland, where the fashion industry was already facing a number of headwinds before COVID came along. But despite this, consumer research group GfK still predicted a recovery for 2020. Well, after 6 weeks of shop closures due to coronavirus, the company says that its forecast is now off the table, and it expects another year of negative sales, even with boost in online shopping. And Economy Suisse called today for a new trade agreement with the UK to deepen ties between the two countries in the area of financial services. In a joint paper written with UK financial services body, the City UK, the think tank makes the case for more collaboration between two financial hubs to overcome challenges caused by the pandemic. Meanwhile, in other corporate news, UBS reported a 40% surge in net profit in the first quarter to $1.6 billion US dollars. But looking ahead, it warned that the outbreak will further impact its key sources of business. This already showed through in the first 3 months, with loan losses climbing to $268 million. And turning to sports now, Tokyo President Yoshiro Mori said the Olympic Games, already postponed until next year, would be scrapped if they could still not be held then. Mori's comments were made to Japanese media today when asked if the Games could be postponed again. Health experts have also cast doubt on whether the Games can go ahead without a vaccine first being found. Now, it's a time when many startups are struggling and trying to find their way through the crisis. But as we return to work, now is also a good time for young firms to take advantage of lower valuations and cheaper talent. Now, that's according to serial entrepreneur Bettina Hein, who's also on the Swiss television series Lion's Den.
Well, this is a really great time to found a company and also to be an early stage company, because you can get talent for less money. It's becoming less competitive. That means you can be much more capital efficient. And it's also a good time for investors to invest because the valuations are lower. And the most important thing right now is that customers are much more focused on giving their business to startups that really matter. Everything that is extraneous, everything that is nice to have, will not be bought right now. And that really focuses the attention of executive management in startups and gives them better feedback. Because if everybody says, oh, this is wonderful, let me just buy something of this to try it out, that's not very helpful feedback for founders. If they get critiqued and they understand much more quickly what is wrong with their product, what is good about their product, that lets them make much faster progress.
So this going back to work stage is really critical then for startups?
Absolutely, yes. Everything that is non-core, founders and executive management have to disregard, and they have to focus on those business areas, those products that really resonate with customers.
And staying with startups, earlier I spoke to Lausanne-based Twiice about how they have managed to stay on solid footing throughout the crisis. The medtech company, which makes exoskeletons for paraplegics, even managed to recently debut a new bit of tech. I spoke with co-founder Tristan Buga. Now, Tristan, I can't help but notice there's not a lot of staying home happening right now. When was this shot?
This was shot just a few weeks before the major lockdown. So we were lucky enough to still be able to record it. Of course, it was way before we even knew about it. And luckily we were able to shoot it before. There was some more events coming up just a few weeks after. Unfortunately, we could not organize a press conference as it was intended.
This technology, it reminds me a lot of the exoskeleton that you debuted last year at Viva Tech. How much of this technology has been repurposed for white?
So we kept the same core components. So the motors, the electrical motors, the batteries, the electronics, these are the standard components you really want to keep between each exoskeleton, so you can create an economy of scale on these very expensive components to build. And then the parts that are really custom to each individual depend on the user's size, but also on the user's activity, the activity that the user wants to perform. So we had to adapt some of the parts to be able to perform ski touring, and some of the parts to the size of Martin, so his morphology, his body height.
And why the idea of ski touring as a follow-up to Twiice, the exoskeleton?
So we always want to really follow the individual's requests. So we never really want to create technology for the purpose of technology or for the beauty of technology itself. We always want to start from a personal request. And so Martin came up to us and asked us, can you actually build something for me? I'm a paraplegic, but I don't care about walking. It's fine. I can use my wheelchair on a daily basis, but I'd love to be able to go in the snow again. That's something I could not do with my wheelchair. And I'd love to go back in the mountain in places that he could not reach before with a wheelchair.
So does he finance this himself, or who's paying for this?
So we have several partners who sponsor the project, both technically, so they provide technological elements like Fisher connectors. They provided all the connectivity solutions, and the company Sonsbo, the Swiss company Sonsbo, the largest Swiss electrical motor manufacturer, and they sponsor the project as well, and provided also the electrical motors for the exoskeleton. And then we had other partners like the Fondation Son Tabac, who decided to help with this particular project specifically.
But are you making money?
At this stage, we're not making money. We're not able to sell these devices, of course. They need to go through an entire certification process. This is not finished yet. And so we're not making money per se by selling our devices, of course.
Certainly for startups, coronavirus has really brought on some really tough times financially, economically. They've lost funding, support, etc. How bad did it get for you?
So for us, this crisis has been more a source of opportunities and of changes, of positive changes. Financially, we have enough cash to run for the next months, and we're able to go through the crisis, of course. And I think it's a different situation for other startups. But for us, it's been more like a motivation to look for new opportunities also, and to adapt our way of working. We were fluent in digital tools, so we could adapt quickly to home office. But it made our daily routine a bit different. Of course, it was a challenge. We could not perform tests with the pilots anymore. Of course, we cannot go perform new training sessions with our pilots. So this has been a challenge. It's also been a challenge regarding some events. So typically the Cybertron, which was postponed to September, that's been an issue, especially since some of our funding is coming from sponsors. But in terms of operations, I think we were able to adapt quickly. And in terms of funding, as a startup, of course, you're used to having some funding at the beginning and use that funding over a long period of time. So you have to operate without revenues in the beginning.
So it doesn't sound like you had the same challenges as startups that are perhaps closing funding rounds.
If you're just before closing a round, I think it can be a very difficult situation. It's also difficult if you're going to meet investors and pitch investors. It's of course much more difficult to meet in person, and so a pitch online might be a different ball game than actually meeting and shake hands.
At the beginning of the crisis, there was a lot of complaints from startups that the federal government did not step in fast enough, did not do enough for them. As we recall, Venture Lab put out a big call. A lot of startups got together. And now last week, Federal Council finally put out what's like a startup-specific package for our viewers. It's a system of guarantees that's being used for the SMEs. Also is not going to be applied to startups. And the Confederation, the government, will guarantee 65% of the credit, and the cantons will guarantee the remaining 35%. My question to you, Tristan, is this enough?
So I think it's a good start. I think startups will be able to get to that money, hopefully. And I think that the cantons and InnoSuisse are also involved is a good thing, because they will be able to use their judgments, because they know the startups already. InnoSuisse knows all the startups in the scene startups go through their process, and so they know them pretty well. So I think it's a good implementation, but whether lending money is a good solution, I think this is still a question.
Now you can watch the interview in full along with all of the rest of our content on our website, cnnmoney.ch. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember to stay in touch, take care, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.